Hi, friends. I hope you are doing great. Based on what we have discussed the previous session, you might understand the fact that we're gonna talk about the other topics that are somehow relevant to the main topic of crime. So, in today's class, we're gonna talk about capital punishment. The phrase capital punishment simply means when somebody is being killed because of some bad behavior or illegal activities that they've done. So the person might lose their lives because of the illegal and immoral activities. Even though this act, which means capital punishment, is not permitted and practiced anymore in many countries, it is still practiced and acceptable in some other countries. So, what is your thought on that? Tell me about it in the comments below so that I can see whether you agree with that or not, and if it is practiced in your country or it is banned. So the first idea about it is supporters say that capital punishment deters crime. If you know the meaning of deters, the sentence would be so easy for you. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you about its meaning. Deter something or deter somebody from doing something means to prevent something from happening. So it means capital punishment can deter people or criminals from doing anything very serious, like the crime, I mean. Fear of the death penalty stops people from committing offenses. So here, as you can see, fear of the death. So when you know that you might lose your life, it can be a great deterrent just for you not to commit any kind of serious crime. Fear of the death penalty. Death penalty is like capital punishment. Stops. So here, I haven't used deter again. Instead, I'm using stop to show a wide variety of vocabulary and phrases, which are definitely needed to get a higher band score, especially 7 and plus. Stop people from committing. So you know that the structure that is followed by stop is stop somebody from doing something. And here we say committing offenses instead of committing a crime. Why? In order to vary the language that we are using. And remember, when you want to add ing to commit, the spelling would be different. Committing, like the way that you can see it is written. The third idea, the death penalty shows that the crime is not tolerated. So it is not accepted. It is not tolerated. It's so severe that if somebody does it, they will lose their lives. It is a form of revenge. So you know the meaning of revenge. When somebody does something bad to you, you want to do it exactly or even worse than that to them, to give them their own medicine so that they would understand what kind of trouble, what kind of suffering you've been through. So capital punishment is a form of revenge as well, because they've done something so bad. In return, they would lose their life. The cost of imprisonment is avoided. So when you have that person, the criminal, in prison, you need to spend a lot of money. You know, the government, the authorities need to spend a lot of money. Like, for example, keeping the prisoner in prison might cost really a very, very huge amount, like an astronomical amount of money that could be avoided by killing them by capital punishment. The offender cannot pose a threat to others. So as soon as they are dead, they cannot threaten or pose any threat to others, other people in society. So the offender, we had it previously, it means criminal, cannot. Take a look at the way that we write it. When you want to write cannot, like can't, the complete form of that is cannot, but without any space, which is a very, very common problem in essays that I see from my students and others. Pose a threat. We had it previously. So instead of saying pretend, you can say pose a threat to something or somebody else. Moving on to the next topic, against capital punishment. As it has been discussed previously, some people do not like the idea of doing that. That's why capital punishment is not practiced in many countries recently. And many people argue that it should be banned from all other countries, that they do have it still. Innocent people could be wrongly convicted and executed. Sometimes we cannot really tell the difference between the innocent and the guilty. And sometimes we might just pose a threat to those people who really didn't do something bad and they are wrongly convicted and executed. Executed means capital punishment when they are killed, executed. So this structure is a passive one as well. Could be, and then we have a beautiful adverb, wrongly convicted and executed. Crime rates are not necessarily reduced, are not necessarily another adverb, reduce. It means that when you just do the capital punishment and people are executed, it doesn't necessarily lower the rate of the crime. Many criminals do not think they will be caught, even though the punishment is so serious. They don't think that they would be caught. They will just find a way to get out and they will be released before the police could find them. Capital punishment is not a good deterrent. Remember deter previously? Here we use it like the verb is not a good deterrent. It's not a good way of stopping people. Executing prisoners creates a violent culture and encourage revenge. So yes, definitely. When you do that, it's like eye for eye. You do something bad to me, I will do something bad to you. And when it is practiced commonly in society, people would really feel like their revenge. And this is a very bad motivation for people to go for that. Executing prisoners creates a violent culture and encourages revenge. So people are encouraged to go for revenge. We have no right to take another human life. So we don't have any right to kill another person, even though they are guilty. We cannot do that. If you have previously seen the video that was about animals' rights, you might remember that exactly we had something like this sentence in that session as well, because we don't have the right to kill animals. The fact that they are just below us on the chain does not really mean that we can kill and end their lives. So the same is true for other people. Okay, they are guilty, but we cannot kill them. We have no right to take another human life. So we have no right, we have no reason to do that. We can put them in prison. We can just do whatever we want, but killing? No. So, moving on to the next topic, community service. I myself have seen this as a topic for writing a lot. That do you think that community service can replace capital punishment? What are the pros? What are the cons? What's your position? Different sorts of questions, but under the theme of community service. Community service is a way to reform offenders. So it is a way to reform. Reform means change dramatically, change the criminals. It could be a solution to prison overcrowding. Overcrowding means prisons are filled with offenders, so it's so busy. But when we just have another solution like community service, the population of the criminals could decrease. It avoids the cost of imprisonment. Previously, we talked about this topic that keeping the prisoners in prison is very, very expensive and it costs a lot of money and budget. So, when you do that, the budget could be spent and invested in other sorts of activities. It makes offenders useful in their local communities. So you can see that you can get the most of their time and their presence because they are building something, they are cleaning somewhere. So they are being productive and useful instead of just keeping them in prisons and wasting their time and your time and energy and resources. They're required to clean the streets or talk to school groups. So there are different sorts of community service activities that they might be assigned for. Some of them are related to cleaning up streets or other places, sometimes building up something, as I mentioned, or even talking to school groups so that they can share their experiences to the schools in order to deter any, let's say, probability for some school children from becoming a part of the gangsters or criminals later on. Offenders repay their community. So, as offenders have done something bad in the past to their community, this is a very nice way to do their debt. They avoid the negative influence that prison can have. As you might remember, in the beginning of this part, we talked about the fact that sometimes putting offenders in prison can be somehow disadvantageous because of the fact that when they have the company of other criminals, they would talk about their crime and they can be affected by one another, so that it can even be a kind of dangerous thing for offenders to be put and to be placed together. They might teach one another different techniques, different strategies, which are illegal. And yeah, so let's move to the next topic, which is about against community service. So, by now, I'm sure that you've understood that nothing in this world is just positive or negative. So, when you really understand this fact, your analytical way of thinking, yeah, could be improved so much so that you can simply think of the other side of the coin whenever needed. Community service is not a sufficient punishment. So, for many crimes, it is not considered to be sufficient. Sufficient means enough. So, what they've done previously is so much big that not any kind of community service cannot resolve the issue. Criminals should be locked up away from their victims. So, this is very important because in most sorts of community service, prisoners are out in society and they can be with other people, other regular people, the public. So, it's very dangerous for the victims and those people who do not know about them, or even they don't, even they do know, but they are together so they cannot protect themselves. And finally, crime in the media. Crime is one of the main subjects of most news programs. So, of course, because it involves people's lives, people's property, people's possessions, and nothing could be much more important than their crime and their, let's say, effects and consequences that are based on crime. Mass media focus on violent and sensational crimes. So, what you usually hear on the news or on media is mostly based on violent and sensational crimes. Sensational means those things that provoke your senses, your emotions. Why? Because they can get a lot of attraction and attention from the audience. And that is something that they're looking for. They want to have your attention. This leads to fear of crime among the public. This is another way of referencing. So it's very important to do that in order to get a high band score, especially 7 and higher. These, it means doing that, what the mass media focus on. This leads to, when you use these, you shouldn't forget adding the S to the verb. This leads to fear of crime among the public. Sensational stories attract more viewers or readers. So when they do that, as I told you previously, it causes a lot of attention. And that's why it attracts more viewers or readers so that their, let's say, view rate would increase. That makes them so happy. The media reports crime stories in order to increase their audience. The media reports crime stories in order to, it means why. It shows the reason. In order to, what is the consequence? What is the result? Increase their audience. What they're looking for and what they are wishing for is having more audience. Okay, my lovable friends, this is the end of today's topic, which was about crime and those subcategories. I hope that you've learned a lot of new vocabulary, or you have the possibility of having them practice, even if you knew them previously, and of course the ideas, because the most important thing that I have found most students and candidates are struggling with is the fact that sometimes they cannot think of the ideas because they're like, what? I don't have any ideas, even in my own mother tongue, let alone English. So I hope that by now you've got a lot of ideas so that if the topic is about crime or anything that is related to that, you've got plenty of nice, top-notch ideas. Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel because I will be really, really motivated to see that we have more friends on board. And I will see you in the next session. Take care. Bye for now.